Hi, and welcome to the video of the second leg of our Spanish road trip, where we travel from Zaragoza to Teruel. On today's trip we'll be covering just 150 miles or 250 kilometres, including a slight detour to Albarracin. We'll use a mix of A roads, national roads and some little smaller ones. On the whole road trip we visit 16 locations, staying overnight in 9 of them. If you don't want to miss the rest of the trip, then click on subscribe and hit that notification bell. So without further ado, let's head out. And I want to show you us leaving our hotel, the Reino de Aragon, at around 9:30 on a Monday morning. It's not too bad, is it? As I mentioned in our earlier video, we are using a mixture of the car's inbuilt satellite navigation, with Janice providing additional guidance from Waze. What could possibly go wrong? I'll drop a link to all the apps and tools we use, as well as our accommodation, into the description below. As we head out of Zaragoza, a quick word about planning. I know we're all different. There's how long we are comfortable driving, the distance we're happy to cover, and how and when to take breaks. So we're sharing our approach. I'm not saying it's the right one, but it's ours. We're taking the A23 a short distance before heading onto back road Spain and the N330. We're only staying in Teruel one night. It is relatively small, and part of this trip planning is a series of compromises. We want to complete this journey in 3 weeks, so that means skipping Valencia, which really needs a minimum of 3 nights. On this segment, the aim is to enjoy the drive. We want to pop into Albarracin, which requires a detour. We aim to stay there for maybe 30 minutes to an hour and get to Teruel by 2 PM. We know there's some impressive aqueducts on the edge of Old Teruel, and we'll catch those before we arrive at our accommodation. We have covered around 23 miles or 37 kilometres on the A23, and the N330 has run parallel to it, but now it's time to join it at Cariñena. And we're in a Spanish wine region, but don't worry, we're not going to stop to partake. We'll make a note of the wine areas, and when we reach Teruel we can have a drop of something local. And now a word about the transition from A roads to the M roads. The speed limit drops from 120 km per hour to 90 km per hour, with the limits dropping further as you travel through the towns. And quite often there's some start-stop traffic there too. Also on this leg, the A road pretty much mirrors the M road, so you can choose where and when you jump on and off. I'm happy with the slightly slower speed and the more attractive landscape. I say more attractive, but it can be pretty open and desolate. But it's all part of Spain, and to me just a little more interesting than the motorway. When we reach Teruel this afternoon, we'll be pretty much parallel with Madrid, so halfway through Spain. Obviously, we're further to the east. If you want to see a complete route we followed, I'll leave a link to our Google My Maps page in the description below. I think I'll leave you with a small section of the route to enjoy. I'll be back in a short while. I'm back. I didn't want to leave you alone for too long. So for clarity, this was filmed in September 2023. That's important because I wanted to make a statement about driving this trip with an EV. So we're driving a petrol car. We'll be transitioning to an EV in 2024. So I'm using this trip as a bit of a recce to understand how easy or difficult that may be in the future. And I know infrastructure is improving all the time, but I wanted to set a line in the sand. I'm not saying it's going to be impossible, but certainly very challenging with the current infrastructure, and I've validated that with tools such as a better route planner, ABRP. If you completed a road trip through Spain in an electric car, I'd love to hear about it. Leave us a comment below. And back to the country and driving today. As you can see, it's not particularly busy, and as I mentioned earlier, this is a Monday, and although we're not quite there, when it comes to siesta time, yes, the roads become even quieter. The other thing I love about Spain is it's so well signposted, and it's really clear when it's safe to overtake and when it's not. And as we're driving our own car, you can use the AA and RAC websites to check the travel requirements, what I need to be safe and legal. I'll pop the links in the description below. As we continue our journey through Burbáguena, you realise there's so much of Spain to discover. On a road trip like this, some of it you pass by, some of it you run straight through the centre. Just soak it all in. It's nice to see other road users enjoying the scenic routes. As I mentioned, these road markings make it so clear when it's safe to overtake, even in a right-hand drive car, although it's good to have a trusty navigator. And again, if you look to the left, you can see how close we are to tracking the A23, but I'm okay with the N234. This is our third road trip through a large chunk of Spain. Each time we learn a little. I hope through this video to help you too. If you're enjoying it, don't forget to subscribe and click on that notification bell so you don't miss the rest of our travels. And of course, give us a like, it really helps. Anyway, back to those other road trips, one in 2014 and one in 2016. On the first road trip, on our rush to head south, we only spent one night in Toledo. That was a mistake. Another mistake was not pre-ordering our tickets to the Alhambra Palace in Granada. We only saw the gardens, which were impressive, but we wanted to correct that. As the main driver for this trip was to visit Janice's brother's holiday home in Majaca, we were heading south, so it gave us a chance to right those wrongs. I think our next road trip will focus on a smaller geographical area, probably the north, heading maybe from Girona on the east to say Santiago de Compostela on the west, picking up San Sebastian too. Part Gastro, part Pilgrim, as we'll be following more of the Camino de Santiago. As you'll see later in this series, we visit some wonderful towns and cities in the north that sit on that route. This stretch of road really reminds me of travelling through Texas as part of our 2011 road trip in the USA, where the tarmac seems to extend as far as the eye can see. And then bam, you're back in Spain. And it's now time to take a detour across the country as we head to our stopover of Albarracin, and we get a little more rural. I have a DK book, Backroads Spain, on the bookshelf that I refer to, and there was a route I could have taken had I another day in Teruel. That was from the mountains to the plains, Alcanaz to Albarracin. However, that would have meant a detour from Zaragoza to Alcanaz, the start of the route. So on this leg, no can do. However, we do follow a segment as we leave Albarracin towards Teruel. Anyway, for now, let's see what this route throws up. This is what I like to call my PlayStation route, where the open road weaves its way through the landscape. Despite the sped up footage, we're enjoying this at a leisurely pace, enjoying the ever-changing landscape. These are beautifully maintained roads, and we stumble across why. A crew hard at work. And now another break to enjoy the landscape. I know it wasn't long, but we need to turn off at Pozondón. I have to be honest, I'm pleased the roads are so quiet, because I didn't make this look easy. As we navigate our way through this sleepy little town, it looks like the routes begin to become a little more rustic in a moment. And here we go. Let's enjoy the scenery. So that part of the route slowed us up a little, but in no time at all we're back on proper tarmac. But that's short-lived as we pick up the next part of our cross-country route. It's a beautiful way to see this part of Spain, and as you can see there's not a huge amount of traffic to contend with. Now there are road trips and there are road trips. For some it's about the journey. Our 2018 Icelandic road trip is all about the journey. Quite often the destinations are not so important. You can catch some of those adventures on this channel if you'd like. Then there's the road trips where it's just the destinations. Our 2010 Canadian road trip is a good example, where we started in Toronto, headed to Niagara Falls, Kingston, Ottawa, Quebec City and Montreal, 90% motorway based. And then there's these Spanish trips, where if you have the time you can mix the fabulous destinations with a chance to explore the landscape of the country. If you don't have the time you can still join the dots and see different sides of Spain by visiting the cities of the north, central and south. We're reaching the end of this cross-country stretch and we're only a few miles from Albarracin. To Teruel it's only around 25 miles or 40k, but we're a touch behind schedule, so we're going to take a quick leg stretch and we'll be on our way. We'll then be able to check in and have a late lunch con cerveza. Look up on the hillside and you'll start to catch the history of this part of Spain. As we reach the edge of town you can see there's plenty of available parking, and there's more closer to the centre. And there was a surprise for me in the next car park. I'm going to slow down the action so I can show you. To the left, 4 EV charging stations. Now they're only 22 kilowatt AC points, and if you're an EV owner or thinking of becoming one, you know what that means. But the inclusion of them does demonstrate that things will only get better. Now let's head off and find somewhere else to park. Even as you drive through Albarracin, you can understand why it's popular with the tourists. It's beautiful. I'm not sure the 30 minutes we had allocated would do it justice, so maybe one for next time. I know there's a car park on the other side of town, so let's head out there and check out the views. So the views over Albarracin are impressive, as is the town itself. With a couple of thousand years of history, this medieval heaven is a mix of Moorish architecture with a cathedral dating from the 16th century, which features a bell tower built on the remains of a Romanesque temple. So a tip from our mistake: allocate a few hours if you want to explore further, or why not stay overnight? Anyway, we have to get back on the road again. As we head on to Teruel, we will be taking a little bit of that from the mountains to the plains trip I mentioned earlier from the DK Backroad Spain book. Now I'm going to be quiet and let the scenery do the talking. I'm pootling along at around the speed limit, but I've noticed that I appear to be holding somebody up. So to make everyone's lives a little easier, I just slip into a lay-by for a moment to let him by. I want to enjoy the route, and I'm sure he has better things to get on with. Once again, this is pretty stunning. And it reminds me of America, specifically Arizona, and our 2006 West Coast road trip. Does it remind you of any of your road trips? Leave me a comment below, I'd love to hear from you. I have loved the ever-changing landscape, and again it throws up a sort of surprise as we round the corner another wide open expanse. And then, in the distance, to our left, is a mass of white objects. As we draw closer, it looks like these are planes. Indeed they are. Teruel Airport doesn't take passengers. It's a storage and maintenance facility for up to 250 aircraft. Now we rejoin the N234, which will morph into the N420 and take us straight into Teruel. It's only about 5 miles, or 8.5 kilometres to our hotel. Just as in Zaragoza, the postal address of the hotel is different to the address of the car park. I mean, it's the same building, but from a driving destination perspective, quite different. You can save a chunk of time and stress by noting that when you plug in your destination. As I mentioned at the beginning, we want to check out some of Teruel's amazing aqueducts before we reach the hotel though. I have to say the route into the city was a little strange. I think because there were roadworks in the centre, Waze took us past that and we ended doubling back on ourselves. So at the moment I'm listening to Janice whilst the car is trying to take me the direct route, but I know better than to argue with Janice, even if that means we take this interesting little street. We now cross the railway line. Despite being only 140 miles or 220 kilometres from Madrid, there is no direct train from Spain's capital. And with your nearest international airports being Castelló or Valencia, both over 50 miles away, the best way to visit Teruel, if you're not Spanish, is by car on a road trip. Anyway, we have now closed in on our objective, those aqueducts to the north of the old town. We just need to find a spot to park. Job done. Now let's take a look around. There are 3 crossings over the ravine, but the one we're interested in is the Los Arcos Aqueduct. Built in the 16th century, originally to feed water to the old city, it's a marvel to look at. It no longer carries water but provides a level walkway between old and new Teruel. We'll be taking a closer look a little later today as we explore the town, and we'll probably even cross it. Well, that was worth a 5-minute detour. Now let's head on to our accommodation, the Grand Hotel Botánicos. But not before we enjoy one last look along this impressive street. And in no time at all, we're here. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you've got this far, we surely deserve a like. Until next time, happy and safe travels.